certain scenario. It's not a long and drawn out answer to what your question was. There's many different scenarios where it's not so easy to just pick up and walk away, whether it's, codependent or oftentimes you'll see the pattern of um, as part of codependence, they will kind of remove you from your support network. So I even had a client that like was convinced that for their career path and everything like that and the relationship to grow, they moved like 6 states away from their family. And now looking back, the client was like, oh, that was a strategy to get me away from, because the idea is when you talk to other people and you're like, oh, your spouse doesn't call you this, or this doesn't happen to you, but it happens to me. You start gaining perspective and you're like, oh God, I think I'm in a bad situation.
Right.
But abusers like to kind of take you away from that being able to like reality check with people. So sometimes I've had clients where like they're just in their own little island and there's nobody around as much as they know they want to get out. There's just no way because there's no, so as strategy, as I learned to do with myself, you build the self-esteem, you cheerlead them, you help them get the courage of just even thinking about walking away. And then you kind of step by step, there's certain strategies how to do it and things like that.
Right.
But the
Right.
first part is mindset, knowing that you deserve better, that your
Every
future self deserves better.
right. And it's funny. Everything in life is mindset, right? Like, I mean, when you set goals, when I was a young kid with sports, if I set a goal that I was going to do, win a championship, do this, and I set my mind to do it, a lot of times, just like our Italian moms that say they're going to do something, they get it done because it's mindset, right? It's the same thing. And then when you start, it's almost like this is where it gets really like interesting for me because Lord, my wife's a psych major, so she loves this crazy brain, right? So, and it's interesting to me that we can easily flip the switch and the mindset can flip very quickly into these people being helpless or even with myself. Like I used to have severe anxiety, which I didn't even know I had because most times I was drinking and that
Mhm.
was to mask all the other problems along with the anxiety. I'd wake up in the morning and be like, I'm a little anxious, but whatever, I get through it. And then I know I was going to, lunchtime, Wall Street, 25 years, lunch turned into dinner, rolled into drinks, rolled into more drinks. So like it was just a vicious cycle. So I never even knew I had anxiety till I quit drinking.
You're too busy.
Too
Sometimes it isn't until you stop and smell the roses that you're like, oh, I think I have
bi-
depression. I think I have anxiety.
right, right, exactly. And just work. And again, I always take accountability for being I was a selfish person because the only thing I cared about was how much money I could make. Now I wanted to provide for my kids and let them have
Mhm.
whatever they wanted, but it was about me winning, right? My whole life was always about me, me, me. And now I've flipped the role over the last 6 to 7 years where I put myself last every single day and talk about a real man. Being able to, I put my dogs in front of me every single day. I wake up in the morning. I thank God that he allows me to breathe again because like I tell most people on our show, I shouldn't even be here with the, opioid addiction and the amount of alcohol I was drinking for so long. Um, that I'm very blessed that I'm here and healthy in the best shape I've ever been in my life. So I thank God every morning for that. And then every after my prayers, I say today is another day that you will put yourself last because many days you have always put yourself first. And when you start doing that, you start realizing the mindset, no matter how bad the day is, you worked as hard as you possibly could and you put yourself last. And I truly know that I'm a better person today than I was 6 years ago, even making the money that I was making. And it's interesting how our mind can easily flip um, and get into a routine that think that being abused or mentally or physically or both is better than trying to find a way to get out.
Mhm.
Right? I think I I wish there was some kind of, you know, maybe maybe what you need to do is really get up on the podium and really start teaching that, because that's important. And people
I'd
really
say
need.
80% of my caseload is PTSD. It's like the irony, like you said, of my life. It was, to go back when I was younger and, I kind of dabbled in the idea, I want to be a scientist, I want to be an archaeologist, but life, the helping bug bit me, so to speak, as I was kind of going through my tumultuous teenage years and, the bullying and the, identity crisis and all the fun things that come with, being an adolescent and surviving. I remember saying to myself, being like, man, if I can get through these years, I'm going to learn how to help other people get through these years. And it's ironic because here I am. I do help a lot of teenagers and kids and, all walks of life. But I remember that kind of got me through. And I'm like, if I can, I remember saying to God, I'm like, if you can get me through this time, I promise you I will devote and do it for other people. So it's just ironic. It's my badge of honor, as painful as, the things I went through and the traumas and trials and tribulations. It made me who I am today. It gave me the skill set. When I have a new client, I'll tell
Sorry.
them, oh, sorry, I have personal and professional experience.
Sorry about that, Maria.
Oh, no problem.
No,
So
you-
I have
hold on.
I have personal and professional experience, meaning, yes, I learned from textbook and I went to school, but it's the textbook of life that taught me a lot of how to help people, more specifically with traumas and abuse. And so I try, as soon as I sense that there's an unhealthy situation someone's in, the mama bear in me, so to speak, tries to gently remind people it doesn't have to be this way. These are potential signs, these are red flags. So I do try to teach them as best I can. And I do kind of think about who I was when I didn't know and when I was naive. And I tell people knowledge is power, and that's my style of counseling. I give you as much knowledge as I know. Sometimes I have to do homework, sometimes I have to do research, get supervision, but we will work through it together. But I will help you learn as best you can about you so that you can figure out and make a better life path for yourself,
Right.
whatever that means to you.
Exactly. That's important stuff. So let's get back to back to your situation, your life, and tell us a little bit more which led you back into this. But like, you told me about the relationships and all the stuff that you went through. And were you when you went into college, let me ask you this,
Mhm.
because I always like to ask people this. I never drank in high school, got to college, started drinking, and I still relate that to why I didn't get drafted in baseball, because not that it was something that I relied on, but it was something that I don't know, maybe it was something I relied on. I don't really remember. I mean, we have alcoholism in our family, but like my point is that like I didn't drink in high school, but drank in college. And you make bad decisions when you have alcohol, when you have drugs. Forget, I mean, come on, let's go down that road a little bit.
Mhm.
Did you drink in high school? So let me ask you this. Did you drink in high school because you needed to suppress all the bullying and all the shit that was going on in your life, or did you just
So, like we talked about, surprisingly, so I was blessed that thankfully drugs and alcohol was not my choice, but
right,
apparently unhealthy relationships and toxic relationship with food was my thing.
right,
So, binge eating was my thing. And that was my comfort, just like with alcohol or drugs, it's your best friend. It's there whenever you need it.
truth.
It doesn't judge you. It doesn't care if you haven't showered in 2 days, whatever, that was my best friend and for years, for many, many years. And that's how I coped, quite honestly. Obviously not the best strategy, but in comparison to what
Right.
the other vices I could have gone, I guess that was the one I chose.
Wow, I
So
didn't
in
even think of.
college I didn't really I drank like with my friends, and I still can't believe I was a club kid. I used to go to the club 3 times a week, which is wild to me. I can't, I can barely go to bed at like, my eyes are closing by like 9 o'clock. So the
I
idea
hear
of
you.
partying until 1 a.m.
Oh,
Whoa.
I know. Or just
But
getting ready to go out at 11. Yeah, those
yeah,
days. Oh my
pre-gaming when
goodness.
I'm like, friends will call me up and say, "Hey, let's hang out." I'm like, "I'm in bed. Good night.
Right.
I'll talk to you
Right.
tomorrow."
Right. That's exactly true. I trust me, I know the feeling now, especially our lifestyle that Lori and I live. It's we're in bed pretty early now. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Which in the old days, my nights didn't start till 11, 12 o'clock, and I'd,
Yeah.
be out till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and then get back in and then get up for 7 o'clock in the morning to get to the office and, get into the office by 7:30 and work off of 3 hours of sleep and just
Mhm.
wow, yeah, yeah, I
I
do.
know. I like college, in the best way possible is a blur because I remember just calling my mom crying, being like, I can't do this. I can't write these papers. I can't deal with these people. And she just, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. Call me tomorrow. Get through the day.
Get through the day.
God bless her.
Yeah.
But so yeah, binge eating, like I said, it
Talk about that,
was
please.
yeah, so that was my vice to answer your question. I didn't really get into hard drugs or anything because I just, I was already dealing with enough, I guess. And thankfully, intuitively, I knew to just not take on any more than I was already dealing with. So
Right.
that was a blessing in disguise. But I could have easily, like you said, numbed out like the rest of people because of all the pain. But for whatever reason, food was it for me. That's how I dealt with it. So I remember, college was definitely the height of binging for sure. But now looking back when I was younger, I'd be nervous about a math test or something. And the night before, I just like load up on, cookies, cupcakes, brownies, whatever. And as part of it is just as any addiction is the shame, is hiding it, is, not wanting anyone to see it. The irony that is my life is I believe my Judy, my adoptive mother, I think she kind of struggled with some food stuff too. And I'll never forget, actually, I wrote an article about it recently, but oh my God, I thought I was going to have such punishment, but she handled it like a champ. So I remember, I think it was like maybe middle school or so, and it was after like a birthday party or something, and there's that glorious chocolate cake staring at you in the fridge, and it's just like luring you in. And so I remember, just note to self, okay, I'll wait till my parents go to bed. And I mean, it was just crazy. The things, you think about and you talk about the lifestyle and the things you have to do and the behaviors you do to like keep the addiction going. And this is one of those like wild moments to me. I waited till my parents were asleep at, I don't know, 2 a.m. or some crazy stuff like that. And I remember like commando, like crawling down like military style on the floor, like looking up to see, are they awake? Are they sleeping? They're snoring. Okay, cool. We're good. Green light. So then I'd crawl down, literally crawling down the stairs, which were creaky. So that was, so it's like, and then you'd stop and then you'd go. And I finally victoriously got to, the fridge. And I'm literally like, I'm taking out the cake and I'm just like, oh my God, all my pain, all this, all the anxieties, it's going to go away magically. Like it's just going to feel so good when I just dive into this cake. And no sooner do I open the fridge, it was the freezer was the top door and the bottom door was the fridge. So I go to close the fridge and there's my mom and I was like, "Oh shit." And I was like, that's it, murderous rage. This is it. This is the end of my childhood. She's an Italian strong woman. Like, what is going to happen? And she, we talked about it and she would, she divulged that she too kind of had issues with food before and she would be an emotional eater, so she totally validated my experience. And she said, I get it. She's like, there's nothing wrong with wanting a piece of cake. She's like, but can you please do me a favor the next time you want it? Ask, She's like, I'm not saying 2 in the morning is the best time to have it, but you want that extra piece of cake or you want a little extra dinner, just ask me. There's no shame in it. And I'm not saying it magically cured my binge eating, but it was a pivotal moment of learning I don't have to feel ashamed. I worked through over the years, still going through the shame and that, but I feel so grateful that she knew enough, like this was a pivotal moment in a child's life where you could reinforce the behavior or you could make it worse, and she knew enough. This is a moment where you share with people that you've struggled and that, you're going to help the best you can. And, I was the infomercial queen. I'd try all the things. I'd buy the step, the stair, the ab roller, the thigh master, God help us, the
Right.
Suzanne Summers thigh master. I had that, I had it all. And I was just so impatient if after a week or so I didn't see results. I'd binge. I'd be like, well, that's it. If it's a Wednesday and I messed up my diet and I didn't work out, then I'm just gonna really go down the rabbit hole and we'll just start up on Sunday. And
Yeah,
I just never knew why that was the mindset, but I know that's a common mindset, right? Like, we'll
absolutely.
just restart the beginning of the week. Like, no, I could just start the next day, but that was not even an option for
No,
me.
because you allow yourself to say, okay, if we start on Monday, I still have 3 more days to go if it's Thursday
Yeah.
before I can, and you can keep doing this. It's
Yep.
that vicious cycle we're in. It's like when people want to stop. Why do they do dry January? Or everybody goes to the gym they always start at a new
Yep.
year, right? And the gym
Yep.
memberships go through the roof, and then they're over by March. Like the gym
Yep.
is
So
empty
true.
by March.
Yep.
It's the world we live in. It's the way our brains are programmed. Um, I hate to say it, it's the food, the chemicals in the food
Yeah.
that cause our
Yep.
brains to think that way. We as your mom being old school Italian and like my mom and their grandparents and great grandma, I mean, they ate whole foods. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to get, not hard to get it. You can go to get whole foods, but
It's more challenging. Yeah.
people don't
Yep.
do it because it's easier to grab and go, and they don't look at. I tell my wife all the time, she's in the 1%. She reads every label. She's on my ass about everything. Trust me.
She's my go-to. I'll definitely ask her. I'll be like, what about this?
That's what I mean. Like she reads labels inside and out. She studies. She does these things. And trust me, being 53 and being a male and being pretty successful in my life, I sometimes don't really want to hear from my wife because I feel like I'm six, that, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be eating this, but she's right. And
Yeah.
we don't, most times we're either too busy or we don't believe that shit's really bad for us because you don't think the Food and Drug Association administration is going to do this but they are against us. It's all about money. It sucks, but that's what life's about. um and we go down these rabbit holes of, okay, I can start on Monday or I can start January 1st. That gives me, you know what, 3 extra days to do the binge eating or eat like shit. And then I'm going to start. But the hardest thing in life, and what I've come to understand, because I'm one of those people, like I was almost 300 pounds, right? I got myself down. I was 300 at one point. So I got myself down to 200. See, I'm a compulsive, addictive personality. It can go both ways for me. Um, and now I'm about 220 with a ton of more muscle than I was. But eating properly and doing all this stuff. The the world that we're in today, what we set is goals, right? So we set goals, say we're going to lose 25 pounds. And then when we lose the 25 pounds, what do most people do? They
Mhm.
go back to their old habits.
Yep.
Then they gain
Yep.
30, right? That's motivation. And then the hard part is the discipline. The
Hmm.
discipline to know that it's a lifestyle change. That you have to do this forever. Like if you
Yep.
want to look great and you want to feel great.
And, you don't want to hear that when you're trying to, get summer ready for bikini season or, trying to fit into that wedding dress or whatever, it's like, but that's what I'm learning as I get older. My body just likes eating cleaner. Like, it's not that I can't have the cookie, cupcake, or brownie, but probably because my body was like, and we're done, you're cut off. I developed food allergies, and I think it's probably because of the binge eating, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise because I was pre-diabetic. I was going down that road. And so thankfully, it was almost like, God's like, okay, well, we're going to fix this. Here you go. You're going to be allergic to gluten and dairy, which
Right.
is in everything.
Everything.
And all
Everything.
of a sudden, like, I was like, oh, I don't feel as anxious and I don't feel guilty. And now I don't have to, start over on Monday or whatever. But yeah, college, my binging was bad. Like, I
Like,
just remember, you know, pre-gaming, waiting for like finals week and just embarrassingly like, and now I don't know how the heck I did it, but I mean, I don't know how I had the appetite because, I eat enough chicken and I want to, it's like Thanksgiving stuffed.
right.
But I would eat like a whole like like a white bread basically. That was my favorite, like Wonder Bread or whatever. I would eat two huge loaves and just slap on butter, and that was a binge for me. It was crazy. Like
Oh
I
wow.
bread and butter was like my biggest comfort for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
I like bread and butter
Um
too, by the way. I
it's just, yeah, it's there's
Yeah.
just something about it.
Yeah,
And
it's
but
delicious. Yeah.
it was chocolate, it was brownies, but then it would be the opposite, like you said. There's the binge and then there's the purge. Purge, in my sense, I didn't go, I did not self-induce vomiting and anything like that because that just wasn't in my, I wasn't interested, so to
Right.
speak.
Well,
But I
thank God.
did like cut calories and I did overly exercise, and that's another form of kind of the binge is, the eating in excess for 2 hours, feeling uncontrolled. And then you kind of feel guilty and then you compensate and you make up for it. And it's just this nasty cycle.
Vicious. And it's interesting because you do it happens in every addiction or however you want to call it, because it's the same thing with drinking for me or the pills. It was, well, I got so addicted to the pills that I couldn't like literally get out of bed without taking a 30 milligram
Yeah.
oxy, because of the addiction, like to get myself kind of normal. I always say, oh, that's how I
Yeah.
get straight. That's like how I would get myself into like be able to function, which is
Hmm.
incredible. And the thing that, and then you're in this cycle, like you said, and it's a vicious one. And you feel good. It's just like the binge eating. You felt good for when you're doing it. It
Oh,
feels
it's like the best
amazing.
feeling in the world. I could
It's
see
it's
why
you.
people have a hard time stopping. It's like,
It's
it's
euphoric.
euphoric. Yes.
Euphoric. It's euphoric. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then it's the same thing with the drugs, and I was masking that stuff too, where, um, taking Molly and which works on your serotonins and
Mhm.
Molly enhances your serotonin to give you that euphoric feeling.
Mhm.
Funny because my wife and we speak about, like, I tell it she knows me inside and out, and we talk about like somebody like Justin Bieber and his trauma and like what he's been through and why he escapes the way he does because of all the abuse he's taken, physically and mentally, from those people. Um, and he goes to levels that I remember being at because he is escaping, but he needs to get to a happier place because when his serotonins, see, when you start putting chemicals in your body, like I was doing, um, it screws up your
The
receptors.
chemistry. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I would tell my wife, I'm like, I just started taking saffron and to help with this because that burst of euphoric feeling, and sometimes we just get throughout the day.
Mhm.
Sometimes it just comes upon you. Well, I had lost that for so many years because of all the shit I put in my body. And now that I'm taking saffron, I'm starting to get those feelings back. And I only remember them when I was a kid. I don't remember them when I was like in college or after. Um, remember having those feelings like up into high school, but then after that, all gone until because I think of all the drugs, I would imagine. And
Mhm.
now it's finally starting to come back. And it's such a wonderful feeling because I didn't have it for so long. And it used to make me upset, like angry. Like I miss that feeling because I know it's something that's part of our body and it's not there right now. And now it's finally starting to come back and it feels amazing. And
Mhm.
but I wanted to be in that state 20, like again,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
that
Yep.
all the time. I
All the
want to
time.
be euphoric all the time because
Yep.
I think I was masking pain of all the other stuff that I was doing. And by the way,
Mhm.
just so you know, my childhood was awesome. Like my parents, amazing people. Like I didn't go through any trauma like you went through, and I still put myself in that trauma, which is crazy.
It's amazing, I know. Well, and
Yeah,
it's funny too, like you said, obviously, drugs and alcohol will definitely change the brain chemistry, but trauma actually, they've done, like, brain scans, and they've done, brain scan before someone went through something traumatic and then brain scans of someone after, and the chemistry changed just from the trauma alone. So, like you said, you just think of all these people in the world that have endured all these, really difficult emotional experiences, that brain, like I remember saying to friends, and they were very respectful, after I lost my parents, because that was a big trauma for me.
absolutely.
Um, I knew I wasn't dealing with the same person or the same brain. Like that person's dead. I can't go back to that person. I can't access her anymore because every time I try, it was impossible to get there. So I learned to just stop trying to get back there and start becoming whoever I was going to become. Close those chapters, maybe later on reopen them if I want to. But at the time, I had to shut it down and just become whoever I was going to become because that was going to stop me in my tracks of becoming anything.
Right. I I agree. I agree with everything you're saying there. So I would love to hear the it's incredible. Like it's all tied to the same thing, and this is why I paused for a second because the binge eating, um, we the addiction to alcohol or pill, it's all the same. It's all in the same thing. Like it doesn't matter. It's just a different name, and it's a different thing that
Mhm.
we're doing to ourselves to try to put us in that state that makes us feel better, right? Like I mean, and that's really what it comes down to. If you were to simplify, would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you know, I hired, my coach who you had on last time, amazing woman. And
Fantastic.
I learned about just first, I learned about the nutritional aspect of it's no wonder I was having binges. I was not having breakfast, not even a banana, not even toast, anything in the morning. And then, I was too busy in college, working and internships and all the things. And then at nighttime, of course, I'd be starving. Of course, I'd eat for like 7 people because I set myself up for the binge. And
Right.
I learned about blood sugar levels and how when your blood sugar, is very low, for me, that's when I would have the hungry horrors. That's when I would crave the sugary carbohydrates and things like that. Cause like you said, you want that burst of energy. And
Yeah.
so once I learned that aspect and mastered that, then I took on weightlifting. And that's the high